Now we're going to look at the MIDI control section of auto mode, and that's this area down here. Now the first thing we see is this little orange display here with number 3 in it. Now that tells us what instance of auto-tune we have open. Now, in spite of the fact that I've only got one auto-tune open at the moment, I have had more versions open preparing for this video. So this one was number 3 at some stage. And the reason that's important is that if you have multiple versions of auto-tune open at the same time and you want to address one or more of them over MIDI, they need to be distinguished somehow. So this one's instance number 3. And if we pop over here, I've got a MIDI track going, and this MIDI track is talking to, you can see there, Auto-Tune RTAS 3. So it's version 3. The MIDI channel here is not important. It's just the instance of Auto-Tune designated here. So if I had more of them open, they would be labeled separately as RTAS 1, RTAS 2, up to as many as you've got. So given that we've got that now, we'll first have a look at this Learn Scale from Midi Control. Now this is pretty cool because it allows us to tell Auto-Tune the notes that are important to that melody, even if it's only 2 notes or 3 notes. It doesn't actually have to be a legitimate scale as such. So what we'll do to show this off now is play back again the girl who I was playing earlier, who again in her defense was just coming up with the melody as she was going with this song. So this is why it makes good fodder for us to listen to, but she's probably not too happy about it. I'll play her melody back again in bypass, and we can hear where she's going.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on track and you ain't looking back. You found your way and it's a brand new day.
Okay, now that melody is clearly just a standard E major pattern. There's nothing going on in there that sort of breaks from anything that's not straight E major. But in spite of that, she's particularly flat in some areas and she's even singing an E minor type line. But it's all supposed to be E major. So knowing that, of course, we can go and set our key here to E major. But as we discovered before, even then she was breaking out of the box a little bit. So what we'll do now is unbypass auto-tune, and you can see here we've got a retune speed of 0, so that's obviously the fastest we can get to. So if I play that now, you'll get that Cher T-Pain style of sound.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot.
But you can hear it fluttering all around there because, again, she's in between notes. So because we're in chromatic, it's flicking in between things. So what we'll do is we'll hit Learn Scale from MIDI. So straight away, Auto-Tune removed every single note from the scale. So if I play now, it'll be like what I showed in the previous scales tutorial. You can't remove every single note, so Auto-Tune will just say, okay, nothing.
Don't stop when your heart
so it's performing no correction at all at this stage.
You're back on track.
But it's now awaiting MIDI input from me. And I have a MIDI track up here, as we showed before, and it's going out to this particular instance of Auto-Tune. So we're ready to go. Now I've got a MIDI keyboard next to me, and I'll just play, for instance, the note E. And let's watch what happens down here on this keyboard. Okay, this note E ungrayed itself because the whole keyboard had become grey when we chose Learn Scale from MIDI, which means all notes are removed. But now I've opened up this E. So now if I play, listen to what happens. It's the only legal note, so it's now going to try and make every note that E.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on track and you ain't looking back.
Okay, and you can see around the keyboard here the other notes that it's detecting, but of course they're all getting forced to this E. And because we have a very, very fast retune speed, it's quite successfully managing to hold them onto that E. And it's not sounding too chipmunky because I've got the Formant control on here. If I turn that off, it will sound significantly more electronic and chipmunky.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot.
So it shows you how good the Formant control is, that when I do put it on, considering the work it's doing, it does sound remarkably natural. Now, I'll slow this retune speed down a little bit, but of course all that's going to do is allow more bends in the sound and it won't be quite as locked on that E because it won't be reacting quick enough. But here we go around 20.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on track and you ain't looking back.
So while it is holding it to the E, it's getting a bit glitchy because the speed is not quick enough for it to keep up. But that's all just with the note E allowed. So now on the keyboard, I'll open up, say, a G sharp and the lower B as well. So we get a little E major triad. So there's the G sharp, and down below, there's the B. So now if I play, it'll go to the closest notes of that scale. Actually, before I run this, I'll just speed it up a little bit again. So we'll go straight up to the fastest speed so we can hear the result more obviously.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on track and you ain't looking back.
Okay, now that last line, ain't looking back, is actually down on the A. So let's open up the A. Now here we go.
Don't Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on
Here comes the A.
track and you ain't looking back.
So you get the idea. We can actually allow just the notes we want. So knowing this melody now as I do, I'll just open up the rest of the notes that she is legitimately singing in the melody. So there's the F sharp above the E there. So that one's on. And you can see the black notes come out as black and the white notes come out as white, just to distinguish themselves from the grey around it. The C sharp's involved as well, so I'll grab that one. And we end up opening up pretty much just all the notes in the E major scale, but we can still leave a few out of bounds. So let's see what we get with this now.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on track and you ain't looking back. You found your way and it's a brand new day.
Right, and that It's a Brand New Day at the very end actually uses the higher A as well, so we haven't included that one, so that got sucked down to the G sharp below that A. But that's the idea. That's learn scale from MIDI, so you can feed that any information you like. And you can override that too. So in this case, if I didn't want this E here, playing it on the keyboard again does not turn it off. So that's me playing it on the keyboard. It's not turning it off, but clicking on it with the mouse there will. So any of these I want to remove, I can just put them back to remove that way and just toggle them on and off with the mouse if I need to. So even as though it's from MIDI, you can still override it or go along with it just with mouse control over here, which gives you the flexibility if you need that. Now I'll turn that off and we will set all again here. So we're back to a square one situation. And now we're going to talk about target notes via MIDI. And this is partially where, if you've seen those YouTube videos called auto-tuning the news, it's using this that they can get that kind of effect. So I'm going to turn that on now. And now, again, everything's gone to remove and auto-tune is waiting for my MIDI input. Now what I'm going to do initially is just hold the note E down. And you can see there, so you can see on the keyboard, whatever I play, I'll just sort of play some random notes. You can see it's just lighting up whatever I do. So if I hold that E down now, I've got complete MIDI control over what gets corrected. So if I play now.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot.
Again, we've locked her to the E. So if I play an E major triad with a G sharp up top, then an E there, and then a B down below, I can hold that down as a chord, and whatever she's closest to will be the note that it gets corrected to. So I'll play it like that.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on track and you ain't looking back.
So it totally changes the melody. Now, even more fun, I can play any notes I like while it's playing and create a completely new melody, even one totally unrelated to what she's doing, going into a completely different scale if I want. So I'll just do some random things now and you'll hear what I mean.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on track and you ain't looking back.
Right, so I'm just making that up as I go along, playing any old melody, and it follows that. Now, what's cool though is that even as though it's glitching now, I can record my melody and refine that further. So I've got a MIDI track in record here, so I'll just jump into record, play my own melody on top, and then we can go and edit that to make it sound smoother if need be.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot. You're back on track and you ain't looking back. You find your way, it's a brand new day.
Okay, so now I'll close this auto-tune down, and here's my MIDI that I've just recorded. I'll open that up into a larger screen, and we can just play that back as if it's any old MIDI performance, except it's acting on that vocal.
Don't stop when your heart goes.
Okay, because I haven't got a front note, I'll just grab this and make an option drag, and I'll start her on that note.
Don't stop when your heart going, give it your best shot.
So these little glitches here, I can open that a bit longer like that, and let's see if that cleans it up.
Give it your best shot.
Not quite, so we'll come a little bit earlier with that.
Give it your best shot.
A little bit earlier again. Close that one down.
Give it your best shot.
Bit better.
You're back on track and you ain't looking.
Okay, so she came onto this note a bit late. So you get the idea. We can just adjust MIDI notes as easily as we always have and manipulate this melody.
You're back on track and you ain't looking back. You find your way.
Okay, so a little bit late on that.
Find your way. It's a brand.
Okay, now there's a little gap there, so the original sound snuck through. I'll play that again. So the real her is much, much higher, and I'm trying to hold her down lower here, so let's just close that gap down.
It's It's a brand new,
Yeah, so there we go.
it's a brand new day.
So there you go, easy to manipulate. Let's open Auto Tune up again. Now this control over here, octave, allows Auto Tune to either take the octave that the note is actually played in. So watch the keyboard now, and I'm playing that E there, and now I'll play the E an octave below. And Auto Tune will take me literally. It wants, I want E3 or I want E2, whatever. It'll tune to the note that I'm literally playing. Whereas if we take octave all here, and I play any E, all of the E's will get selected. And the difference in this case will mean that the sung note will get quantized to whatever E it's closest to, not the actual E that was played. So in some cases that'll simplify things, and in some cases it'll get things wrong. So in that case you'll need to go to the as played function. So as you can see here, I'm just playing single notes and it's going down. So I prefer to have it in as played and just go to the single note that I actually want. So that's the MIDI section of auto mode. There's even more MIDI control in the graphical area, and we'll get to that later, which allows even finer control if need be. And that's the beauty of Auto Tune. It lets you do things in the most simple way if that works for your program, and if it needs more detail, there's always more detail available later. And most of that detail occurs in graphic mode, and that's what we're going to jump into next. So I'll see you there.